Good morning, students. Hope you all are staying safe at home. Today, we will be starting a new chapter of history, an introduction to modern history when, where, and how. As last year we have read about medieval period of Indian history, this year we will be learning about the modern period. Let us learn about how periods in history are decided upon. So let us move on to periodization of history. Historians categorized the past into ancient, medieval, and modern periods for the ease of our study. And this period, it was gradual and it was continuous process. But for the purpose of study, we have to take some important events and we have to mark and end the beginning of a period. Here, the modern period of Indian history, it is believed to have begun with the decline of Mughal Empire and the establishment of British rule in India in early 1750s. So it continued till India won its independence in 1947, and therefore India was a colony of a British Empire, where in the most part of modern period, as it was considered colony, this because of this reason the period was known as colonial period. Now let us look on to the overview of the modern period in India. The rule of Aurangzeb, who was the last great Mughal ruler, he marked the beginning of the decline of Mughal rule in India, and because of this in early 18th century there were several independent regional kingdoms which came up. The regional rulers, they were engaged in constant scramble, constant struggle, constant fight with each other for power among themselves. So the Europeans who had came in India as traders, they took advantage for this to establish colonies in different parts of Indian subcontinent. Soon, the Dutch, French and the British, they were engaged in a fierce competition where they wanted to flourish their trade in the subcontinent. Finally, Britishers were the one who became victorious, and for the next 200 years they ruled most parts of the Indian subcontinent. So in this course we will learn that how the major events that mark the modern period of Indian history, how they went. So the first one was the decline of Mughal Empire and the rivalry between the rulers of India, which helped the British to gain a foothold in India. We will study about the ways in which British came to power, how they annexed major princely states and how they formed laws and policies by their own. We will learn about the impact of their rule on the economy in our society and on culture of India. We will also learn about the independence movement starting from the uprising in 1857 till the date when India got independence on 15th August 1947. We will also learn about the partition of colonial India into India and Pakistan. Now let us move on to the sources of modern history. How do we get to know about all these things of modern history? There are some of the rich sources of modern history and they are being classified into primary and secondary sources. Primary sources are the first-hand accounts of event in history which are being compiled, which are being grouped by people who had witnessed the event. They are original materials, for example, monuments, coins, inscriptions, paintings, sculptures, and artifacts. They are some of the examples, and these are common in all the three periods of history. With this primary sources for the modern period, it also includes government reports, newspapers, letters, diaries, interviews, autobiographies, films, photographs, maps. So let us move on to secondary sources. They are the sources which are based on the study of primary sources. They are being created by scholars who studied many primary sources and analyzed them. So it mainly includes scholarly books and journals, and we must remember that primary and secondary sources, they are not always objective or always neutral. They usually provide only one point of view because they must be written, they must be constructed by the point of view of the maker. So whenever we look at the sources, especially primary sources, we should think why, when and by whom it was written. Let us now look at some of the important sources of modern period of Indian history. The first one is colonial survey. When the British they arrived and they established their rule in India, they realized that knowing the country and importance of knowing the country well would be very important to administer it effectively. And because of that, they introduced the practice of survey, through which they made detailed studies of everything which they found here. which included history, languages, culture, topography, natural vegetation, wildlife, natural resources, everything. They made a detailed study of different kinds of people also which were living in the land. They classified them on the basis of their caste, religion, ethnicity, and their occupation. So their official institutions such as Archaeological Survey of India, Geological Survey of India, and the Zoological Survey of India, they were being set up. And these institutions, they conducted systematic survey of India. They prepared maps, they prepared tables, charts, everything to record observations. They also used paintings, photographies as their tools, and all these sources, they gave us the clear image of life in colonial India. Now the next one is official records of the British government. The British, they have left behind a huge body of documents such as official letters and their correspondences. So government orders, their acts, their survey maps, census records, everything. The government documents, they provided much more rich information about various aspects of British administration in India. These records, they focused only on the official point of view, and they did not provided much information on how the people of the country, they were feeling, how they responded to the policies and everything. It was just on the paper which was written that how things should be done or how things should be administered. So in order to get a more objective view, we drew upon the other sources such as literature, newspapers, and periodicals. Let us now move on to literature. As books and essays, they were being published during British rule in India. They were important source of modern history. The writings of British, they helped to understand how they saw India, how they viewed India, how they view its people. And notable among these were the writings of Rudyard Kipling and the writings of Indians. In contrast, they made us to see the Indian perception regarding how British rule, they changed over the years. In this regard, we can see the writings of Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, Jyotirao Phule, Rabindranath Tagore, and Dinabandhu Mitra in vernacular languages, which are very important, which depicted social problems of the period by how they faced the things what Britishers did, and the injustices which were being meted by the people, by the people and their society and everyone because of British. So autobiographies such as My Experiments with the Truth by Mahatma Gandhi and Toward Freedom by Jawaharlal Nehru, these were the important ones to understand the nature of British rule in India, which inspired feelings of national pride in the Indians, and they encouraged us to join the fight of freedom against British rule. Now newspapers and periodicals, they are a valuable source of information as they provide chronologically, or we can say time based events, which gives us insight of prevailing public opinion. Okay, the public opinion on wide variety of things on political, economic, and social issues. So there were some of the vernacular newspapers as well. They were important mouthpieces, and they, we can say, important things which were being spoken by the people for freedom struggle in their own language. For example, Bombay Samachar, Kesari, and Amrita Bazar Patrika. These were some of the prominent vernacular newspapers which reflected sentiments of people against British. So newspapers, they also played important role in uniting India across regions, and they inspired people to join the freedom movement. So the next one is photographs and films. So the Britishers, they made a good use of photography both as a tool also and to document life in India as well, by their hobby as well. So later Indians, they took up photographs of the colonial era. We can get a nice authentic visual account of lives, what went, how people took on, how the things went in that period of time. Now let us study about the places where these sources are preserved. They are preserved in many parts across the country as well as in the UK. Now in countries, there are archives, which are the institutions where different kinds of historical documents are preserved. The National Archives of India, which contains documents of Indian history from ancient times. It is the important custodian, important place of records of the colonial period. The next is museums. These are the institutions where objects of scientific, cultural, historical importance, everything are being preserved. The National Museum at Delhi and the Indian Museum at Kolkata. Here again the CSMVS Museum at Mumbai. These are some well-known museums where paintings, sculptures, coins, cloths, manuscripts, these all are being kept, which will be giving us a good point of important historical events in modern period. Also, we can see libraries where the books are being kept and preserved. So the British Library in London contains the India Office Records, which is a large collection of documents which deals with the administration of India from 1600 to 1947. The National Library of India in Kolkata, it also has important documents from which we can reconstruct history in the colonial era. So students, here's an interesting activity for you all. You have to make a timeline, last week's timeline. Whatever happened in your last week, you have to make a timeline. You have to arrange the events according in an order when they happened, and you have to describe them in very short. You have to take a rope. You can tie the rope along a wall, and you can use pins. You can attach the reports of dates and in the order of dates, how things went with you, things went for you, how you felt and everything. So start preparing a timeline. I hope you will enjoy in this. Keep learning and have a good day ahead.